Agriculture provides employment for 35% of Nigeria's population, especially rural women. The Federal Capital Territory Administration gave a Women's Month gift to its rural women, donating 6,000 varieties of economic trees to women groups in Abuja. We'll look at that in our focus on the Federal Capital Territory. My guest on the program has been given a charge to set up farm estates in each local government area of the country. And he talks us through the challenges he faces getting this done amidst the Ruga controversy. And as we do every week, we give you a rundown of the major stories from the seat of power. This is Dateline Abuja. Hello and welcome to Dateline Abuja. I am Kayla Megwa. Let's begin with a mop-up of the major stories making the rounds from Nigeria's presidency.
Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo presided over this week's Federal Executive Council meeting in the absence of President Muhammadu Buhari, who left the country for London in the United Kingdom for his medical checks. The council was briefed by the Director General of the National Information Technology Development Agency, NIDDA, Mr. Kashifu Inuwa, on the university's Transparency Accountability Solution, UTAS platform of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU.
As we speak now, ASU are reworking, trying to fix all the issues we highlighted with the system, and we'll review it again. But that is just one half of the story. The second half of the story also, we need to find where to put that system. Like IPPIS, we have a data center built for it. ASU, where are we going to put it? That means we need to have the data center, and also that data center we need to check to make sure it meets minimum requirement. Because if you put people's information and the system crashes, how can you pay them salary? Or how can you need to build redundancy? There is a lot of things to do. So, but as we speak, they are trying to fix all the issues we highlighted with the system. Then when we finish that, we need to look at the second half of the story, getting where to install it.
The Vice President also chaired the inaugural meeting of the Presidential Committee on the Repatriation, Returns and Resettlement of Displaced Persons in the Northeast. At the meeting, which was attended by some governors and ministers, Professor Osinbajo says the safe return of Nigerians displaced by the insurgency will be treated as an emergency assignment. Professor Osinbajo attended the Bible Society of Nigeria Christian Summit in Lagos State along with former President Olusegun Obasanjo, who was the guest of honor and father of the day. The Vice President called on Nigerians, primarily Christians, to carry out the Great Commission of preaching the gospel and living by its tenets. Over to the Senate, where federal lawmakers in the Red Chamber have rejected a request by President Buhari for the amendment of the newly signed Electoral Act. Specifically, the President wants the lawmakers to review Section 84, subsection 12, which should have paved the way for political office holders to serve as delegates during party conventions.
On page 1 stands part of the bill say,
A week after the National Assembly rejected 5 gender bills in the constitutional amendment process, lawmakers in the Green Chamber have rescinded their decisions on 3 of the bills. The bills are on the indigenship status, citizenship status, and 35% affirmative action for women.
After the rescission, release them on the next set of amendments coming up. I believe, Deputy Speaker, in the next 4 weeks. The Constitution, I believe under Section 5, allows the House to regulate its own procedures. And we will be relying on the provision of the Constitution to harmonize the differences between us and the Senate.
Despite the action of the House of Representatives, women in their numbers stormed the National Assembly, insisting that the lawmakers must rescind their decision on all the bills. The protest, which started last week, becomes significant as Nigeria joined the rest of the world to mark the 2022 International Women's Day. The women are insisting on voting out the lawmakers that voted against the bills. In the courts, Governor Dave Umahi of Ebonyi State received the shocking news when a federal high court in Abuja asked him and his deputy, Mr. Kelechi Igwe, to vacate their seats following their defection from the People's Democratic Party (PDP) to the All Progressives Congress (APC). The presiding judge, Justice Inyang Ekwo, also asked 17 members of the State House of Assembly to vacate their seats for the same reason. However, the governor has appealed the judgment and obtained a stay of execution. Embattled Super Corp Deputy Commissioner of Police Abakari has been arraigned before a federal high court in Abuja by the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency (NDLEA). He is facing an 8-count charge of drug trafficking related offenses. He was arraigned with 4 other officers and 2 civilians. The federal government has inaugurated a 7-person committee tasked with the renegotiation of the 2009 agreements it reached with the Academic Staff Union of Universities (ASU). The committee, chaired by the Pro-Chancellor of Alex Ekweme Federal University, Ndufu Alike, Emeritus Professor Nimi Briggs, is to, among other things, renegotiate in realistic and workable terms the 2009 agreements with other university-based unions. However, the university lecturers are rejecting the move by the federal government.
You will recall that the renegotiation of the 2009 agreements between the federal government and university-based unions, which are 4, ASU, SANU, NAT, and NASU, commenced on Monday, February 13, 2017. However, due to a number of unforeseen circumstances, especially the COVID-19 pandemic, the exercise has had to stop and it has dragged on till now. The committee, which is expected to review the draft proposed federal government ASU agreement, has the following terms of reference, 4 of them. Number 1, it is to liaise and consult with all relevant stakeholders in order to finalize the position of the federal government on the issues in the draft proposed negotiated agreement. Number 2, to renegotiate realistic and workable terms the 2009 agreement with other university-based unions. Number 3, to negotiate and recommend any other issue the committee deems relevant to the position of the university system to achieve global competitiveness. And 4, to submit proposed draft agreement within 3 months from the date of inauguration, that is from today. Today is the 7th. Therefore, April, May, 7th June, I hope, or before, we'll be able to get the result from you.
An additional 123 Nigerian evacuees from Ukraine have arrived in Nigeria. They arrived in Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, from Poland at about 1:20 a.m. on Friday aboard Air Peace. The evacuees comprise 75 males and 48 females, including an infant.
Thank God for your safety and for God's guidance that you've arrived here in Abuja safely. We would also like to assure you of your comfort and safety throughout the process of receiving you here at the airport and over to your accommodations and destinations. The federal government of Nigeria has made various incentives in place in order to provide your comfort, safety, and your stay here in Abuja while you proceed to your various destinations.
Welcome back. Let's talk about agriculture. I've always loved to refer to Nigeria as a farm country. Why? Well, Nigeria has a total agricultural area of 70.8 million hectares, arable land area of 34 million hectares, 6.5 million hectares for permanent crops, and 30.3 million hectares on meadows and pastures. The tragedy of our nation is its inability to fully harness its most valuable resources, its people and its land. Food exports from Nigeria accounted for more than 70% of the country's GDP in 1960. 25 years later, it was almost a complete reversal, with food items accounting for over 50% of Nigeria's imports. In truth, quite a lot is being done to reverse this situation, and it is yielding results. We'll talk more about that in the interview segment. In our focus on the FCT, rural women farmers in the nation's capital are getting some support from the FCT administration to plant trees to address climate change. Please watch this.
It's the 2022 International Women's Day, and the Federal Capital Territory Administration have gathered rural women from different parts of the nation's capital for the celebrations. The women, mostly farmers, display the products of their labor in the farms. The FCT administration is engaging the farmers as part of efforts to counter environmental degradation in the nation's capital. 6,000 varieties of economic tree seedlings were distributed to the women. The Minister of State for the FCT sees women as a veritable tool to address the issues of climate change.
Trees provide food, protection and homes to humans, birds and mammals, even as many species of wildlife depends on trees for habitat. In FCT, we shall continue to mitigate on Mr. President's declaration at the UN Assembly. Hence, the exercise of today to kick-start the commemoration of International Women's Day, a day where our gender and species are celebrated, remembered for extraordinary feats in their respective fields of endeavors.
The Mandate Secretary of the FCT Social Development Secretariat, Mrs. Hadiza Kabir, says the occasion was designed to contribute to President Muhammadu Buhari's global commitment to plant 35,000 trees nationwide to address climate change, global deforestation efforts, and repairing damaged ecosystems.
This is the symbolic planting that if we plant this tree, if we are indeed sorry, the tree planted by Aisha must grow by Mariam giving it water. Don't go and carry soap water or hot water to kill Aisha tree. Because this Aisha tree, now it will give you the oxygen where you want breathe. So if you forgive them, you want make you get comfortable, you too don't go get comfortable.
The FCT administration hopes to plant 70,000 trees across the nation's capital, and efforts like this are a significant step towards making that a reality.
My guest on the program is the Executive Secretary of the National Agricultural Land Development Agency, Mr. Paul Ikonne. What are farm estates? And how is he going to meet the President's mandate to set them up in all the local government areas in Nigeria? How is he getting young rural men involved in agriculture? What is he doing to convince those that confuse the Estate Farm Initiative for the Rural Grazing Area Settlements, popularly known as RUGA? He tells me this is the major challenge he's facing as he carries out his duties. Please watch this. Honorable Paul Ikonne, welcome to Dateline Abuja.
Thank you very much.
Last year, the President actually directed your agency to set up farm estates in all the senatorial districts. What's the status of that particular project?
We are doing excellently well in that directive. And you know, nothing can be done without land being made available. NADA does not buy land, but NADA accepts land donation from the community. As we speak, the integrated farm estate in Borno State is ready for commissioning. That estate is one of the biggest after Daura. We have completed in Imo State total reactivation of an abandoned farm estate, abandoned for 30 years. So the Imo State government made that space available for us. So now they have reactivated it and engaged farmers. Then going forward in Ogun State, we completed the land clearing and access road and establishing boreholes in Ogun State, 100 hectares of land in preparatory to start the construction work of the farm. So that directive of Mr. President is on course. As we receive land from communities and villages, then we implement. You cannot enter into any state without the consent of the governor and the community and without land being provided.
I was going to ask you if you face a little bit of a challenge in that respect, having to work with state governments and whatnot. But before we go into that, just so people can understand, what are farm estates?
Excellent. Farm estate is having everything that has to do with agriculture in one location. Now, for those that don't have housing, we have housing estates inside the integrated farm estate. We have clinic, we have school, so that the children of the farmer will go to good school. They will have good clinic that will attend to their medical needs. We have internet facilities. We have play section. It's a community of its own that has to deal with farming. So that creating an enabling environment, that is what Mr. President has in
So this community is owned by the government? Employs locals, I'm guessing?
No, there is no employment. The community that donates the land will also bring the farmers, and these farmers are engaged, so it becomes their property. The farm is allocated to them for crop farming, for animal husbandry.
They don't have to pay?
They don't pay anything, but they generate revenue because the land belongs to them. That land is their own equity. So now that develops it and it engages them into meaningful production, they begin to earn income from it. So it belongs to them. Our own is to develop it. Their own is to manage it and make money from it. And by so doing, we'll achieve food security, which is the desire of Mr. President.
That's interesting. They don't have to pay for water, because I see there are a lot of farms across the country where they give them a hectare each. I know in Kano there's this lovely tomato farm where they give all the farmers a hectare each, but they pay some amount for water supply.
They're not paying for anything.
So the water supply, nothing?
Everything, yes.
When they generate the income, they take all the money, it's theirs?
No, then the off-taker comes, takes and pay. So the farmers make their money, then the other one is plunged into the farm. So it's like a recycled system. So in order to keep the business, to keep the farm running.
You were supposed to create in all the senatorial districts.
As they provide the land.
So you keep saying that as the state provides the land. So what challenge are you facing in that regard? Are you having states not giving you land for you to do this job?
The land belongs to the communities, but the state is the custodian of the land. So, and the process of land, especially in the south, is not something that you will pick easily. Like in KB State, we have started the construction of the integrated farming estate. It's ongoing. The goat farming is already going there. That section has been completed. In Niger State also, we have started the construction. The goat animal pens are also ready.
What's the delay?
The delay in terms of construction?
The delay in terms of the state's
land.
What makes them delay? This is a directive from the president. You've been doing this. They can see the success around the country, in other parts of the country. What's the delay? Why do you think the state governments are not? Are you saying to us that they don't willingly?
No, they are keying into it.
But that's just 4 or 5.
That have, yes, the ones that have, the ones that are near, that have been completed, like KB is not fully completed. Progress is being made. We are 60%.
So what's the delay in other senatorial districts?
That I won't be able to say, because it depends on the state. And let me use my own state, for example, where land was provided and people had to go to court, even in Imo State. So
explain that. Why? What happened?
In some areas, land issues are not something you walk past. And you don't just go in and impose your desire on them. So they need to buy into it and know that this is for them. And the states that have bought into it, they have seen the progress being made. And we're also asking more states. It's for the benefit of the country, for the benefit of the people from that locality. So the people should shave land grabbing, no. And a lot of rumor went out there. And with the commissioning of other states, they are beginning to see.
Tell us some of those rumors. How were you able to counter those rumors? And how much enlightenment are you taking to grassroots? And for those who've never heard of this, you know, how much sensitization is actually going out there?
Yeah, you know, let me not use the word opposition. People who are out to misinform people, who are not interested in the progress of Nigerians, went out to say that everything about NADA has to do with Ruga. That was just misinformation. But when they got the message right, they shut up. But unfortunately, some people already bought into it. Sensitization is going on. They are seeing progress.
How? What kind of sensitization?
For example, the one completed in Abia, and the rice farm that we did in Abia State as well. So they now saw that this is real. In Imo State, completed, and a lot of trainings and radio jingles are ongoing to inform people. In Ebonyi State, we had to use NYSC land to cultivate. We cultivated 50 hectares on rice farming. So they are beginning to understand that this is actually, for them, it wasn't what was being circulated, you know, and the interest is there. So we are looking forward, and we are waiting for them, you know, to come forward with land. But based on that, we have gone past them looking for 100 hectares, 50 hectares. It's difficult to see that in one location in most parts of the south. So we're now doing cassava projects. Those women that are already cultivating cassava, they will return their farm, where then they will take them further by establishing the cassava processing plants, so that we can produce gari and also produce starch from it. So NADA is engaging women in that. All the states in the southeast, plus in the south, I say, is getting 1,000 women to be engaged in cassava production. So we have, and then in the north, we engage them in greenhouse production. So we're establishing greenhouse in the north, and cassava encourage women to continue with their cassava production and establish cassava processing plants and packaging plants. By so doing, we're no longer looking for a contiguous land in one location, but since they already have their farm, so all we now need to do is to encourage them with the improved stems and fertilizers, and they do the off-taking, so that the processing will take place and packaging, in order to reduce the cost of gari in the market, and then have availability of food, and also engage more people in that production.
Well, you obviously have your work cut out for you. It's going to be a very busy year. But I want to thank you, Honorable Ikonne, for being with us on Dateline Abuja.
Thank you.
And good luck with the work that you do.
Thank you so very much. And I'm glad I'm being part of the program.
Thanks to my guest, and indeed everyone who spoke to us today on the program. The agricultural revolution in Nigeria is on course, and you don't have to be a farmer to benefit from it. Just go online and find out what package suits you. These farm estates act like hubs, if you will, tending to the entire agricultural value chain in the community. That's a lot of jobs for a lot of people. That is the definition of empowerment. That's Dateline Abuja this week. Please let us know the happenings in your neighborhood using the social media handles showing right now on your screen. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Kayla Magwa. See you next time.